We're now going to work a little bit more on nomenclature, and what I have here is 4 relatively straightforward nomenclature problems, but ones that nevertheless illustrate a nuance that we're going to have to grapple with and deal with. So all 4 of these compounds have 4 carbons in them, and so according to the standard way of counting to 10 in organic, that is bute as its core, 4 being bute. So meth, eth, prop, bute, pent, hex, hept, oct, non, dec, of course. So these potentially would all be butes, and they all contain double bonds, so they might be butenes. Although, I will note that the longest single chain in this molecule is actually only 3. So again, meth, eth, prop, this is going to be a propene with some additional things. So let's go ahead and name these. And as I've already started to allude to, this is going to be a propene because it has 3 carbons in the longest chain. So this is going to be propene, but we also have a methyl, and we also have to figure out where the methyl is and where the double bond is. Now, in a propene, it's always going to be at the 1 position, so the double bond always starts at the 1 position. So I don't need to include it, although I could write instead prop 1-ene, but again, this is not conveying any extra information, so you would almost always leave that out. So this is a propene, and we have a methyl, and so now all we have to do is describe where the methyl is. And again, where the double bond starts is the 1 position, so that means that this is going to be 2-methylpropene. Now I'm going to skip past these 2 and come to this one over here, and we now have a 4-carbon chain, so this is going to be a butene, and then again the only question is where the double bond is. This would be at the 2 position, this would be also at the 2 position, this of course would be at the 1 position. So this would be 1-butene, or but-1-ene, or any other version of communicating the same information. Okay, so now we lead to these 2, and this is the reason why this video exists. Of course, they're both going to be butenes, and of course, they're both going to be 2 butenes, but you recognize that they are different molecules from each other. And the fact that they are different means that their names have to be different. You cannot rotate around this bond, and you cannot easily switch the methyl group from one side to the other. Therefore, these are both butenes, but they have to be named differently. So how shall we name them? Well, you have 2 options. One is to call them cis or trans. That is a way of representing methyls on the same side, methyls on the opposite side, or alternatively E and Z, which is a more formalized definition that you can use when you have a more general case. So for right now, the most important thing to know is that having both methyls on the same side is a situation we call cis. So then this would be cis 2-butene, and I would just simply write it like that. Cis 2-butene. Having the methyls on opposite sides, I would write that as a trans. So this then would be trans 2-butene. And that's basically it. So whenever you're dealing with the nomenclature of double bonds, you need to tell me where the double bond starts. If you have a double bond in the molecule, odds are good that the double bond is going to be in the main chain. So you need to tell me where the double bond starts, and then you need to tell me if it's cis or trans, as long as it's internal. Obviously, if it's terminal, then you would describe it in different terms. It may not be necessary to specify anything else about it. Internal double bonds can be cis or trans if there are only 2 things bound, and terminal double bonds, well, you can handle things slightly differently, naming where the methyls are if there are any, and if it's just simply at the end of the chain, then you can, call it 1 whatever, and that will be the terminal double bond. Alright, so as long as you only have 2 substituents on a double bond, then this is the way you would handle it, cis and trans. Having said that, we're going to give you a preview of coming attractions, and simply note that E and Z are the other way that you could refer to things. A cis double bond is a Z double bond. A trans double bond is an E double bond. And this is from the German. This is due to the German word that means on the same side.
Zusammen, zusammen.
And this is due to the German word that means on opposite sides.
Entgegen, entgegen.
The reason why E and Z exists is when you have more than 2 substituents. So let's now move to the more general case.